Hey man, just step on some feet until they're screaming like Yoshi. What's good, y'all? Soul here, and welcome back to the story mode. So as we're all good and aware, it's been about 3 weeks now since the official gameplay reveal of Pokemon Legends ZA. Now, a lot of people have had a lot of different mixed feelings about this reveal, whether they don't feel like the game looks good enough, maybe they're not too fond of the mechanics that have been shown off, and this and that and this and that. When it really boils down to things, we aren't really going to be sure how we truly feel about this game until we have our hands on it. And until then, it's just going to be baseless conjecture because we haven't actually played the games for ourselves yet. So all we can do is assume that it's going to look entirely bad, assume that it's going to feel awful. And frankly, we had very similar concerns when we first got a reveal for Pokemon Legends Arceus. The game looked kind of rough when we first saw it. I don't know if y'all remember that. It was a long time ago. But even 3 years later, lo and behold, it's one of the better received Pokemon games by the community. So maybe not everybody feels all that excited for Pokemon Legends ZA. And you know what? That's totally fine. You are very much allowed to have an opinion based on what you've seen. Me personally, I'm very much looking forward to it. But Legends ZA in of itself isn't the only thing that I'm looking forward to. We're probably going to have a very similar conversation sometime next year after we've thoroughly explored everything that Pokemon Legends ZA has to offer. But I am ecstatic for the future of Pokemon now more than ever. Whoa there, Soul. Slow down there, buddy. You're way ahead of yourself. We haven't even gotten the game yet. What do you know about this game that we don't? What could it possibly be bringing to the table for the future of Pokemon? What do you know? I know just as much as you know, because we have both viewed this trailer probably a million times by now. And we've already dissected this trailer a ton within the last couple of videos. However, there's still plenty to talk about, and one of those things is what this trailer's mechanics tell us about what we could be seeing later down the line when it comes to Pokemon. But you know what? Why don't we go ahead and just get into the conversation instead? You guys already know the drill. Why don't you go ahead, sit down, grab a nice cup of orange juice. I'm assuming it's morning time for you. Maybe go ahead and cook up some waffles and make sure you have an abundance of Parmesan cheese spilled all over that while we talk about why Legends EA has become critical for the future of Pokemon. Again, we're going to talk about this aspect a lot, but one of the major things that excites me about Pokemon Legends ZA in particular, or just the Legends series in general, is how much freedom they have. Now don't get it twisted, I love our standard Pokemon games that we've been getting since the beginning. There is nothing more RPG than you going out to become a monster tamer, grab said monsters, and go fight the strongest monster tamers out there and potentially some form of god of said monsters. That is the most RPG thing you could ever possibly think of. And even though the general formula has stayed the same throughout a majority of the series, we are still very much here playing these games every single time they come out because they're just fun. We've just always come to enjoy this aspect about the games. And for the most part, we've been following a very similar formula for the last 20 plus years. And here's my thing, not that I have anything against the standard formula that we've been utilizing all this time or anything like that, but over time, most people can definitely agree that it can tend to get stale every now and again. Even when introducing things like new typings, new moves, new Pokemon, and things along those lines, in reality, we're still doing the same thing that we've been doing since day one. And this is obviously no mystery to Game Freak or Pokemon Company, which is why they were allowed to go ahead and make changes to these patterns that we've known for so long, like introducing gimmicks or giving us an open world game that allows us to challenge gyms in any way that we want. Even some more recent games changing things like not having an Elite Four. That's kinda crazy, right? But in reality, even with a lot of these major changes, we're still following a pretty damn strict formula with the mainline generational games. And maybe I'm wrong on this, but I really don't see that changing anytime soon. We're always going to be that 10-year-old kid that hops into the gym challenge, gets really good at Pokemon battling, and eventually earns the title of champion. That's always going to be the familiar situation that's going to be happening in a majority of these games. So taking a look at this straight line, this ongoing pattern that's most likely never going to change for newer mainline generational Pokemon games, it's absolutely no wonder why everybody took so positively to Pokemon Legends Arceus. It just kind of goes to show how tired we were of the same old thing every single year, right? Because Pokemon Legends Arceus did whatever the hell it wanted to. Granted, it's still the same old RPG that we know and love. We go out, we capture monsters, we fill up the Pokédex, and we fight a god at some point. Difference is, though, we're not just showing up for the gym challenge. We're not just working to become a champion. We're helping this professor with his brand new Pokédex concept. We're out here trying to clear our names and prove that we are not the cause of the problems that are happening around Jubilife Town and with the world of Pokemon. We're trying to figure out why God itself grabbed us from the present and chucked us headfirst into the past to figure out a problem that we had very vague information on. And in doing so, we get to play with so many fresh and unique elements to the Pokemon series that we've never seen before. We're actually out in the field dodging the attacks of very dangerous wild Pokemon. All the while we have the freedom to toss Pokeballs at them and actively capture them without even needing to battle, kind of like how the anime has always done. We're changing up the Pokédex aspect, how many times we have to catch a Pokemon before we fully understand it, how many times we have to beat a Pokemon before we fully understand it. It's such a massive shift. Pokemon Legends Arceus was essentially a very much needed breath of fresh air. It was living definitive proof that Pokemon was allowed to change, to do unique things without completely destroying its own identity. Which is why the concepts that have been presented so far in Pokemon Legends ZA make me really ecstatic. With Legends ZA being the second title of this brand new series, it's definitive proof that this series is going to be able to do whatever the mainline generational traditional series cannot. And that makes me really excited for what future titles within the Legends series could potentially hold. Firstly, the freedom to change mechanics, even now more so than ever, is so dope. Now, I've already explained thoroughly as to why I'm so excited for real-time battles. Long and short of it is, as much as I do love RPGs and turn-based battles, action-based combat is where I thrive. That is my stuff, always has been. But just the simple fact that they have the freedom to do something this major at all for a mainline title speaks volumes about what the future potentially holds. In this upcoming game, it's going to be really awesome to be able to dodge moves in real time, block moves with protect in real time, and we even now have the opportunity to overpower and outspeed our opponent's attacks with our own in real time. And this could potentially just be the beginning. In a couple of Legends games down the line, we'll have even crazier animations, even crazier attacks to utilize, even crazier ways to utilize them. We'll probably be controlling the Pokemon ourselves for every battle going forward. Who even knows? This is, of course, under the assumption and hope that Game Freak actually has enough time to develop some of these ideas. But you know what? If there's one thing we can't say about Game Freak, it's that they're not creative. That's just a blatant lie. Regardless though, my point here is that this type of battle system is something that the mainline generational games cannot ever have. We've had regular turn-based combat for so long now that we never thought that would change. Even in Pokemon Legends Arceus, which did so many things different, we still had regular turn-based combat. But them being allowed to shift the primary gameplay aspect to this heavy of a degree means that they have a lot more freedom with the Legends titles, and that's so important to me. But it doesn't just stop there. Being able to capture a Pokemon after it's been defeated or jumping from building to building utilizing parkour mechanics is something absolutely foreign to the mainline series. And it's crazy because, at a glance, these changes aren't the most major things of all time. It's not like other games haven't done stuff like this before. But in the grand scheme of things, it's opening up so many different doors, not only for Legends titles, but even in some cases, the mainline generational titles as well. Like I said, I can't see a situation in which they bring real-time battling to Generation 10. Nothing like that is ever gonna happen. But after a little bit of cleanup, after some testing, and after some polish, things like catching a Pokemon after it's been defeated or actual parkour around a city or region can be something potentially added to the next major game in the series. So in that sense, it's kind of cool because Pokemon Legends kind of serves as a bit of a testing ground for both of these series going forward. And that's the kind of innovation that I like to see. I want to see these new mechanics tested and utilized on this little playground for us to see what could work for the future of the series. And of course, you know, there are a couple of downsides to this. One of those things being, with the testing of these mechanics, it's very hard to see a situation in which something like the Legends games ever actually do truly utilize online play. There's a lot of dinks and kinks that they kind of have to work around to make sure that things are balanced so that when people are playing online, everybody has an equal opportunity to have fun. Kind of hard to do when one person finds a crazy tech that they can abuse online and now everybody's using it and now nobody's having fun. I'm sure they want to avoid a situation like that. Which is why balancing is probably going to be one of the things they focused on least when it comes to games like Legends ZA. Hence why online play, I'm not really expecting that to be a thing. If it is a thing, cool, awesome, great, I'd be happy to be wrong, but I'm not really expecting it. And I can't speak for everybody, but me personally, I can live with that sacrifice if that means that they get to test out as many new mechanics as they want. But again, we don't have the game yet, so I cannot say for certainty if we actually don't have online play, and I can't say for certain what that's gonna look like. Moving along, the next aspect of freedom that makes me so happy is the freedom to go wherever we want. When we first received any form of news for Pokemon Legends Arceus and found out that this game takes place in the past of Sinnoh, which is the Hisui region, I just kind of figured, hey, you know what? That makes plenty of sense. Why not have a game that revisits a past version of the region that we're going to be revisiting within these next couple of months? I mean, hey, it's in the title, Pokemon Legends, the legends of Pokemon history or whatever. I just figured, oh, okay, this is gonna be like a really neat prequel series where we go back into the past of all of these different regions and learn a lot more about the lore and utilize all these fresh mechanics and things like that so that we have something alongside the regular Pokemon series. And the more that I think about it, the happier I am that I was wrong all that time. While Pokemon Legends Arceus does serve as a prequel, Pokemon Legends ZA serves as a direct sequel to Pokemon X and Y. And if you've been following along on this channel long enough, you would probably know that sequels is something that I have been begging for in this series. This is the first time since Pokemon Black 2 and White 2 that we've actually seen a sequel game in this series. And honestly, this is a hell of a lot more and better than the expected definitive edition Pokemon Z that we were expecting after Pokemon X and Y. And if this is something that we can expect from sequels going forward, then sign me up forever. Don't get me wrong, I do appreciate what definitive editions bring to the table with Pokemon Emerald, with Pokemon Platinum, and so on and so forth. But as I've said multiple times in multiple videos well before this, the idea and concept of a sequel will always be a lot more interesting and entertaining to me than simply remaking or giving a definitive edition to a specific generation. Going back to a region years after the prime event that happened in said region seems a lot more fun to me. We get to see what all of our old friends were up to all this time. We get to meet all these new faces that are in town. And now we get a completely brand new story of events that we know absolutely nothing about. A brand new experience. Absolutely sign me up. And what makes me happier is the fact that there's really no certified pattern to pay attention to here, because why in the hell did we go back to Kalos of all places? People were suspecting the possibility of Legends Kyurem for years because, naturally, that would make the most sense to follow up Legends Arceus. But the fact that we jumped right to Kalos? There's absolutely no rhyme or reason for that. I mean, granted, people were speculating and theorizing for a couple of years that Kalos is actually really close to Paldea, but the fact that the DLC brought us to Unova of all places kinda led us off that path, or at least it led me off the path. Regardless, this all means that we can go wherever the hell we want with the Legends series, and that is an amazing thought. Now we're at a point where we could eventually end up getting sequels for all of these different regions that we visited before, whether it be Kanto or Johto or Hoenn, and we can now get new and fresh experiences whether or not it takes place in the past or in the future. You can call it glazing, you can call it whatever you want. The potential for this series has risen exponentially after this reveal, and I simply cannot wait to see where we go next with Legends. Now, the last aspect of freedom that I definitely noticed a little bit is the freedom to be a little more mature with its storytelling if it really wanted to be. While I do feel like Pokemon Legends is still meant to appeal to the majority of their fan base, Pokemon Legends can really take it wherever they want. We recently just got confirmation that Pokemon Legends ZA is rated E10+. And to our memory and knowledge, we've never had a Pokemon game that wasn't just rated E. Not that 10 plus is like the most massive change or anything like that, but it does imply that what we could be receiving in ZA could appeal to a more older audience, somebody more mature than the regular 8 or 9-year-old that may be playing Pokemon games. And that in of itself excites the hell out of me, because I have been wanting more mature stories in this series for so long now it's not even funny. Now, of course, I doubt that they would take things too far. They wouldn't get gritty per se or anything along those lines, but they may touch on some more mature themes that we're not used to seeing in this series, and that would be just so great. So awesome to see. I mean, hey, both of the protagonists in Pokemon Legends Arceus and ZA do appear to be on the older side, so that in of itself tells me everything I need to know. We're not just playing as some 10-year-old going on their first journey. There could be a lot more to this stuff, and that's great. I like that a lot. But I'm not gonna harp on that idea too much because, again, they want to appeal to as many people as humanly possible, and making like super dark, mature stories is not the way to go if they want to do that. But that doesn't mean they can't experiment a little and make a couple of implications here and there, because they have a lot more freedom with Legends than they do the regular mainline games. But do you get what I'm saying here? That little like awkward step that they accidentally took off the beaten path to create Pokemon Legends Arceus has led to some of the most freedom they could possibly have with this franchise in forever. And that is so incredibly exciting to see. And I can easily imagine that from now on, whatever aspects that they do test out in the Legends series, some of them can make their way into the regular mainline series as well. So it's just really exciting to see that we have this playground-esque series that they can do whatever they want with that could potentially have some form of effect on the mainline series going forward. That's awesome to me, but you know what? Maybe that truly is just me. So that just about does it for this one. Kind of a random thought that I had that I'm sure is going to resurface in like a year or so after we've played through Legends ZA, but we'll have to play that one by ear. But I've said enough, I've said my piece, so I'm passing the mic over in your direction, and I want you guys to tell me everything that you're thinking down below. Do you agree that Pokemon Legends as a series has introduced a new freedom to the franchise that we've never seen before, and we have a lot to look forward to when it comes to the future of Pokemon, especially with modern titles? Or am I absolutely crazy? This is actually more of a detriment than anything, or potentially just simply the fact that Pokemon Legends being its own thing does not necessarily mean that it will affect the main series going forward. Tell me everything that you're thinking in the comment section below, because you know for a fact that I am always gonna be down there with you guys. But with that, it does appear to be Skedaddle o'clock, so I'm gonna go ahead and do just so. I'd like to thank you guys ever so much for watching. I truly do hope you enjoyed. Do me the greatest favor of dropping a like and a comment, and consider subscribing for more content just like this here. And with that, I'm gone. So thanks again, hope you enjoyed, and I'll be seeing you guys in the next video. Do me the greatest favor of taking good ass care, and I'll see you all next time. Bye!